I want to welcome everybody. My name is Reverend Sue Nilsson-Kibbe. I am the director of the Bishop Brusso Innovation Center here at United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio. And it is our privilege to welcome Reverend John McGill, who is from We Do EQ training. He's the founder and the lead trainer consultant. And John is super excited about what he has to bring today. So John, welcome, and we will turn things over to you right away.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thank you to the Innovation Center. Thank you for everybody showing up today, making this possible. I wanted to start off with a little bit of a roadmap. I guess before I do, would love to see if everybody, we're going to do some interactive parts today. And so even if your video's off, that's fine. Does everybody know where their little responses are at the bottom there? Can people give us a thumbs up? Give us a hand gesture. We might need that later. All right. I see a couple of them. Thank you for that. And we are going to be talking about goals, or, this time of year, we talk about New Year's resolutions. In my mind, they're about the same thing, things we want to change, things we want to see. If you already have, now I'm going to ask you, this is going to be a little bit risky. I know you've got to kind of put yourself out there, but if you've got a New Year's resolution or a goal for here 2023 that you already know about, that you've written down and you don't mind sharing it, can you drop that in the chat right now? I'm going to be sharing a couple other things, but while we're doing that, I would love to see if people already have things on their mind. And I want to let you know, in about a half hour, midway through this webinar, I'm going to be asking people if there's anybody brave enough to kind of walk through the goal. I feel like the best way we can learn emotional intelligence is just to kind of walk through things in real life and real time. And so I know that'll be opening yourselves up to a bunch of strangers on Zoom, but hopefully some people have goals that they're proud about, that they want to shout out about and work through together. So I'd be glad for that. Oh, there you go. Making art. I love it. Start exercising daily. Oh my goodness. That's a great challenge. Beef up. All right. Staff Parish Relations Committee, more time in the Word and prayer, improve health. Fantastic. Read more books. That is on my list every year. So maybe we'll talk about that, use that as an example, because what we're really talking about today are those goals that kind of keep showing up year after year after year. I use this planner, and I'll talk about it later a little bit. Every 13 weeks, I start a new one, and I start off redoing my goals in it every time. And I hope there's some people on this call like me, that sometimes I have to put a goal into the next planner and the next planner and the next planner because I don't get there. But how do we increase our chances for success? So I'm going to be jumping in. We'll share my screen. We'll have some notes. I hope that you have something maybe that you could write with for a couple important things. Not everything is going to be super important, but I do believe you'll be wanting to catch some of the most important emotional intelligence principles we're going to be sharing today. So to begin with, I wanted to make sure that you got this sheet. I know it was emailed out if you registered for the webinar. It's going to be dropped in the chat right now. If you don't have it, I just encourage you to download it. Even while I'm talking, if you have this, but you haven't printed it out, I encourage you, if you're in a place to print it out, to go ahead and do that. I promised at the very beginning here, this is a big promise of increasing your chances of reaching your goals by 500%. And I'm going to go ahead and let you know that I think if you put all of these things, if you even half the things I'm going to share with you today into practice, you will be able to do that. It won't come quickly, but you're going to see yourself become more and more and more able to achieve your goals. And I'm going to give you two suggestions right at the top that will increase your chances, scientifically proven to increase your chances. Number one, write down your goals. Science has showed over and over and over that you need to write down your goals. So that's why I wanted to provide this worksheet. I wanted to give you a blank PDF so you could just print it out for each goal that you have, each major goal. Second thing to increase your chance of success, actually write it out. I didn't provide a fillable PDF. I encourage you not to try to do this. Print it out and handwrite it. I'm not sure what the psychology is, but people are more than twice as likely to achieve their goals when they're handwritten rather than typed. So maybe it's an ownership thing. Maybe it's just that investment of time, but print this sheet out, write it out. And we'll actually be going over the sheet. Again, I'm hoping somebody will be brave enough to step out there and share a goal, and we can walk through this sheet together. Also, I promised this in the beginning. I want to give you 2 bonuses today. And so I want to give you bonus number 1 right off the top. It's going to be a link in the chat to some productivity pages that I've come up and I wanted to share with you. There's 4 of them. It's a PDF. They're all 4 together. They kind of look like this. And they're kind of introductory pages. If you're used to goal setting, if you've already scoured the internet and got some great pages that you like to use for goal setting, then you probably don't need these. But if you're new to goal setting, and I've been telling you I've already told you, write things down, and you're like, well, what do I write down? How do I do this? Where do I start? I wanted to give you these pages right from the beginning and just give you a 1-minute explanation of all 4 of them. The top left there is a life planning tool for short-term, mid-term, long-term goals in a bunch of the arenas of life. So I'm hoping that you're able to kind of think through those. It's just a way to kind of, again, it's a 360 planning tool to look at all areas of your life and to kind of write down a few goals. The second page, I think, is the most fun. It's called the Change Agent, and it's just a bunch of squares that say, what do you need to, and then there's words in them: add, remove, read, learn, try, give, move toward, move away, do less, create, stop, and just filling those out. I encourage you to use that sheet and just print it out, set aside 3 minutes, time yourself and say, I'm just going to fill in as many blanks in 3 minutes as I can, put the date at the top, look at it, and try doing that every 6 months. And then over time, you'll be able to compare the things that are going on in your life that you need to kind of shift and do. It's a great change tool. Then you'll see a weekly milestones for quarters. That's just, we're going to talk about incremental change today, how to take small steps towards success. That's the best way long-term. And so if you have a really big goal, somebody said, read more books. Well, maybe your goal is to read, I don't know, 5 books this year. Maybe it's 25 books this year. Well, what will those milestones be? Can you write down the titles of those books that you want to read or start reading each week, and how many pages you want to read? And then, of course, I put at the bottom of that, on your 13th week, how will you celebrate that goal? And then the last page is just a simple time chart. Sometimes it's great just to break down your week and think about every hour, how are you using your time? I want to encourage you to use that sheet not only for planning out your week, but also to write down and log your week at some point. We all have 168 hours. And when we actually start logging and showing how we really do use our time, that can be great information too. So I wanted to give those to you right at the top. There's some sheets you can just play around, have fun with. I wanted to give you that bonus. So we're talking again about New Year's resolutions, change, goal setting at the beginning of the year. I thought I'd start off with some statistics, because New Year's resolutions is kind of part of American culture, at least for about half the culture. Usually every year, about 45% of Americans make New Year's resolutions, and only about 8% are successful in achieving those goals. If they have goals for the year, but they don't write them down, they don't specifically make a resolution, they don't say, starting January 1st, I'm going to do this, that number drops to 4%. Again, I'm promising that I can help you achieve your goals by a factor of 500%. Well, for a lot of us, it's not that hard if we're starting at 4% or 6%. I'm really hoping that the tools you get today will get you to a place through time, through perseverance, where you'll be 50% successful in your goal setting. And if you are just 50% successful in the goals you want to achieve this year, you will be outstripping the vast majority of people that are setting and going after goals. If you're a person who doesn't really believe in resolutions or not sure about goal setting, well, here's a way to think about it. 20% of Americans say they set goals, but every person has a mental image. It's held in our emotional brain, in the amygdala, a mental image of our best self, who we want to be, our best self of how much do you want to weigh? How many books do you want to read? What educational level do you want to attain? Or what salary would you eventually like to have? Where would you like to be living? We all have answers to those questions in our mind. And whether we set goals or not, these are things unconsciously we hope to strive toward. And so I think goal setting and resolutions are just one tool to move into our best self, but it is an emotional self, and that means it's an emotional change. And that's what we're going to, of course, be talking about today. The good news in all of this, how can I be promising 500% more success, is, well, even though change is hard and change takes time, it is an emotional process. And therefore, what we're going to be talking about today are learnable skills that can be repeatedly applied in other areas of your life. In other words, maybe you have a goal to lose weight. Well, if you become more and more successful at that, you're also going to become more successful in other productivity goals of work or career or education or exercise or reading or relationships, whatever it is. Our ability to change isn't just in one area. Once we start working on that ability to change, that emotional process, it moves into other areas of our life. I showed those numbers there on the title page, but I just kind of wanted to explain them if it wasn't readily apparent. If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always got. And that's what the first one shows. If we take 1 and 365 days, just keep doing the same thing, at the end of the year, we still have 1. 1 to the 365th power is still 1. But if we make an incremental 1% change every day of the year, 1 to the 361.01, that represents a 1% change to the 365th power, is 37.8. That's a 3,780% change. And that would be incredible. So that's what we're talking about, is what can we learn from emotional intelligence? It's a transferable skill to up our chances of changing in every area of our life. Before I really jump into goal setting, I thought I would share at least a couple minutes about what emotional intelligence is. It's something you may have heard about before. It's been in the news, as you can see. It's been on the cover of Time magazine before. There's Harvard Business Review. If you go on Harvard Business's website, they have an entire link to a whole list of resources and selection of books on emotional intelligence. This stuff is taking corporate America by storm. There's all sorts of opportunities for learning. And I hope that we can utilize these same principles in the church and ministry leaders' lives, in all of our lives, so that we can be moving toward the goals and the things that God puts on our heart. So I want to spend about another 3 minutes kind of talking about what emotional intelligence is, and then we'll give you a framework for the problems we face, and then we're going to talk about how EQ can help us. I wanted to define an emotion. The easiest definition of emotion I've ever heard of is energy in motion. All right. How easy is that? It's just our energy. The emotions are the things that drive us, that push us. In this definition, of course, it's a conscious mental reaction, such as anger or fear, subjectively experienced. It's how you're experiencing what's going on around you, as strong feelings usually directed toward a specific object and are typically accompanied by physiological, in the body, and behavioral changes in the body. Why am I sharing this definition with you today? I really want us to focus on this last part here. Emotion is accompanied by what? Physiological and behavioral changes in the body. What are we talking about with goals and New Year's resolutions and, whatever it may be? We're talking about changing our behaviors, changing our reactions to the world. So that's what emotion is. And according to the Oxford Dictionary of Psychology, emotional intelligence is, and some people call it EI, I call it EQ, your emotional quotient, is most often defined as the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. People with high emotional intelligence can recognize their own emotions and those of others, and utilize emotional intelligence to guide our thinking, our behavior. Again, key, our behavior. Discern between different feelings, label them appropriately, and adjust our emotions to adapt to environments. So do you see how these definitions really play into what we want to see happen? If we're trying to achieve goals, we want to be adaptable, right? We want to be able to change our behavior. We want to be able to handle what's going on around us so that we're responding to be able to stay on track. And last thing I'll say about emotional intelligence of these 4 quadrants and where we'll be working. Whenever you talk about emotional intelligence, most people look at these 4 quadrants. The first one, the top left, is key self-awareness. You're going to hear me talk more about that. What's going on with myself? How are you feeling? Not just today. How are you feeling right now in the moment? Are you aware of how you're feeling? Are you accurate in your self-assessment? Are you confident in knowing what you feel? And of course, as we go down on the left side there, that leads to self-management. It also goes to the right column where it leads to social awareness. Once you know how you're feeling, you're more open to sensing how other people are feeling. And then through self-management and social awareness, we move into relational management. And that's how to guide and direct and influence those around us, as you can see, to be a leader, to develop others, to be a change catalyst. So which quadrant are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about that bottom left, right? The self-management. Once we become aware of our own emotions, we can move into self-management. Look at the terms under that: self-control, transparency, adaptability, achievement, drive, and initiative. All of those words are about our goals. Are we able to have control when temptation comes? Transparency, maybe you have relationship goals. Are you able to be transparent and share where you are, share your emotional self? Adaptability, again, when we face those roadblocks in our goals, are we able to face them? So that's the quadrant we're talking about. And obviously, like I said, we'll need the top left. We'll need some self-awareness to do that. All right, let me give you one more picture, and then we'll really move into some emotional intelligence. All right. I wanted to share, what does it look like to achieve a goal? And here's what we think about. We think about who we are today. All right. Where you are and what your salary is and how your relationships stand and you know, all of your achievements and stuff today. And then if we're talking about New Year's resolutions, we could talk about a goal in 12 weeks or 3 months, 6 months or whatever. But a lot of times the New Year's resolution, we're talking about 1 year later, right? And then we make a resolution, we set goals, and we figure out, we have a plan, and we have a plan. We're like, okay, how do I move from where I am today to where I want to be in 1 year? Now, if it was this simple, you probably wouldn't be here today. If you're the kind of person that says today you set a plan and you just walk through that plan and you're totally changed a year later and you're always successful in goals, then honestly, you probably should be teaching this seminar. You're doing better than I am. What do we really encounter is a roadblock, obstacles to our goal. You know, I'm just picturing it as a wall here. We all have these things that we run up against in our goal setting. You know, for me, if I want to get healthier and lose weight, you know, that obstacle may look like social pressure to celebrate. If people want to go out for a birthday and everybody's eating all of this stuff, then, or somebody gives me food, or you know, it could be just simple as a box of donuts sitting there. That's a big obstacle for me losing weight, you know. Maybe for some other things, if it's reading, maybe it's procrastination or finding the time. If it's about, you know, moving ahead in your career, maybe it's an educational obstacle or a training or just some inner concerns that you have. Those obstacles are different for everybody, but they're things that we carry around that keep us from achieving our goals. Now, I've thrown a ton of information at you thus far. We've talked about simple productivities, some sheets, how to set some goals and some ideas around that. I've encouraged you to share some goals. We've talked about emotional intelligence. We've talked about how goal setting should look, but now we're talking about the reality of it. And because of that, I want to give you some paradigms today. What are some ways we can think? How can we think through emotional intelligence to really get beyond that wall? Now, I've got some emotionally intelligent truths I want to share with you in just a moment. But before we do, I really want to share about 2 ways that we go about trying to get through that wall that don't work. And I've seen this repeatedly. I love reading about productivity. I love goal setting. And so I've read websites in preparation for this webinar. I looked at even more websites. And I see these 2 things over and over and over. And yet I believe they are responsible for the reason why people don't achieve their goals. Number 1, a wrong way that people try to get through this wall is just through sheer willpower, grit, and determination. Some people realize there's a wall there and they're just like, well, I'm just going to plow through it. This is going to be the year. I've encountered obstacles before, but now I'm just going to break through that wall. And this is going to be my year. And sometimes it's easy to hype ourselves up and think we're just going to, new year, new you, right? And we're just going to be a different person this year and use our grit and our determination. That hardly ever works. It works for a small minority of people. And you know what those people do? They turn around and write books and websites and tell you to keep trying it. But it only works for a minority of people. You know why? Because our grit, our will, our determination, our perseverance, that willpower is an inexhaustible resource in our lives. And if we continue to try to rely on that for long-term change, we won't be successful. Did you know scientists have actually measured it when they stress a person and have them make difficult willpower choices? They actually can measure a drop in people's blood glucose, the glucose level in people's blood. Like it actually takes energy to use our willpower. Again, if you're like me, if in the past when I'm trying to lose weight, when there's the box of donuts there at work or something, it takes willpower to walk on by and say, I'm not even going to look at those. But what happens over time? I've seen some online study that showed January 20th. Did you know January 20th, what's special about that date? It's actually called like quit day, because that's when a majority of people, once they hit January 20th, more than half of the people have given up on their New Year's resolutions. Why? Because days come along where our willpower is exhausted. I keep using the example of food and stuff because, it's been on my list. It's on many people's lists. Getting healthier is people's number 1 category of New Year's resolutions. And so losing weight, it's funny, in the Southeast, that means losing weight. In the West Coast, that usually means exercise more. But we try to find ways to get healthy. And we hit those obstacles, and maybe we're able to say no for a while to something unhealthy, or say yes to putting on those shoes and go jogging or whatever. But when things wear us down, when we've had a bad day at work, or we're going through family problems, or maybe we have a health setback and the anxieties pile up and our willpower gets defeated, man, that's when people, and I know what it's like, binge eat. Maybe it's at night, you're just like, forget that resolution. I deserve this, or I've had a tough day. When our willpower gets eroded, we're not able to be that person on the other side of the wall. We're not able to break through. You've probably heard the studies as well. Even those people who successfully lose weight, and it's less than 10% of people who want to lose weight, in the next 2 or 3 years, the vast majority of those people gain the weight back. Why? Because they run out. We all eventually run out of the willpower to change. So number 1, don't count on willpower, grit, and determination to get you through those obstacles. Number 2, and this is a wrong strategy that people try over and over, is they try to get creative with getting around the wall. They say, well, I can't break through it. I'm having struggle with the wall, so maybe I'll try climbing over it. Maybe I'll go around to the left, go around to the right, have somebody else kind of boost me over the wall, maybe dig under it. And so what do we do then? Well, we look for a better plan. Well, if we tried this plan, it didn't get through the wall, then let's try another plan. And then we invest in this or that. We, get, well, let's buy another productivity journal, or let's try a new plan, or let's follow somebody else's blog, or, with weight loss, it's let's find another diet. Let's listen to another guru. Did you know the weight loss industry in America is over a $4 billion industry every year? People will always try to sell you something to give you another way to get around those obstacles. And I'm here to tell you that if the obstacle remains, it won't work. So grit and determination won't get you through the wall. Getting creative won't get you around the wall. What is the emotionally intelligent way to get past the wall? Well, is to remove the wall. Brick by brick, over time, is to dismantle the wall in our lives. See, the real question we should have when we're trying to set our goals is not, how do I get to the other side of the wall? The real question we should have is, why is the wall there to begin with? Who put it there? Now, there may be some external blockages to your goal. You may say, well, I don't have enough money to achieve my goal, or I was hoping this person would come through with something and it didn't happen, or maybe you wanted education and you didn't get into the program that you wanted to be a part of. We have some external reasons, but 90-something% of the reasons we don't achieve our goals are because those walls are within us, and we need to ask why they're there. So I think what I'd like for us to do next is just go through some emotionally intelligent truths about change. I want to make sure that we understand this concept of owning the wall and why it's there, and dismantling it piece by piece before we move on. And then we'll look at those goal changing sheets. All right. So 5 emotionally truths about making change. Number 1, the struggle of change is about our values, and therefore it is an emotional challenge. Let's not make a mistake and think that all these goals that we've listed about, work this or time commitment this is all just about what it is. We don't want to read more books. Again, I've had that goal myself. I wrote it in my journal this year. But it's not just to read more books. There's a value behind it, and there's always an emotion behind our values. So first of all, let's understand that there are values and emotions behind all of this. And if we want to make changes in life, then we've got to deal with those emotions and values. Number 2 is we increase our chances of success when we understand the emotions underlying our goals. When you've written down a goal, do you know emotionally why it's there? Can you trace it? Have you written that down and said, oh, okay, I know I have this goal because here is the great driver in my spirit that makes me want to do this. There's all sorts of reasons why somebody would want to be healthy, right? Let's go back to weight loss. Again, it's like the number 1 goal in America. But there's all sorts of reasons why somebody might want to lose weight. Maybe they want to live longer so they can be around for their families, their children, and their grandchildren. Or maybe somebody just wants to look better. Maybe somebody feels pressure to please their parents. Maybe they have a parent that's always telling them, oh, you need to get healthier. And so it's about pleasing a parent. There's all sorts of emotional reasons and leverage why we would want to achieve a goal. Are you emotionally aware of those values and for your goal? In the same way, we increase our chances of success exponentially by understanding the emotions underlying the obstacle. Have you already thought about what the walls are? If you've got a goal in mind for 2023, I've been talking about that wall. I'm showing you a picture of that wall. I hope your mind is thinking. I hope the wheels are turning and you're already thinking, oh yeah, this is obstacles. I'm really familiar with this. I've tried this goal before, and here's the problems I run into, whether again, it's procrastination or time or just know-how or whatever it is. But what are the emotions underneath that? Is it fear of failure? Fear of disappointing somebody else? Is it maybe a sadness? Maybe you failed in the past and you just see yourself as a failure, and there's a certain sadness related around that obstacle that holds you back. Are you familiar with the emotions around that obstacle? And can we own them? Number 4, I cannot overestimate how important this is. If you're writing anything down, please write this down. We wreck our chances of success when we don't own the obstacle. Now, again, let me be clear. Sometimes we fail at a goal because of an external problem. Again, maybe it's money, maybe we really are crunched on time, maybe somebody failed in helping us that said they would help us, or whatever it is. But again, 9 times out of 10, the obstacle is within ourselves. It's in our emotional brain, and we need to own that obstacle. If we keep going through life feeling like, well, I'm not achieving my goals because it's that person's fault, that person, that person, that person, that person, that person, we'll never achieve our goals because it's out of our power. It's out of our control. But if we emotionally hold on and say, wait a minute, what's really been holding me back are my emotions and my ideas around this obstacle. We've got to own that obstacle because it is a part of you. Again, maybe you failed in the past because you're afraid to step out and try something. Maybe that's because you did have a parent or a coach or a teacher, one time criticize your work and call you a failure, and you're still kind of carrying that around, and you're afraid to step out on something because you think, it's just going to fail, or I don't want to fail, or I don't want to be a public failure. We've got to own that. And we got to recognize that that's a part of who we are. And we got to recognize, man, maybe that's something that happened to us when we were 10 years old, but it's still part of who we are. And I'm saying not getting only to the point that we own it, but that we're able to go up to that wall and put our hands on it and feel the textures and say, this is a part of who I am. For every goal that we write down, what makes it difficult is not things out there, but a lot of times we make it difficult ourselves because it's things deep in our emotional selves. And we can't be afraid to explore it, and we cannot be afraid to own it. I hope that makes sense. Again, before we move on here in a minute, I'll have a time for some Q&A. So if I'm being totally confusing there, I apologize. We'll ask some questions. Let me give you number 5, and then we'll just open it up for some Q&A. Number 5, emotionally intelligent truth about change. The secret to empower great change is primarily to learn to remove obstacles. It's not trying to come up with a perfect picture of who that person is on the other side of the wall. It's not about trying to, if I just had more time, or if I just had more money, or if I just had this or that. It's brick by brick removing those obstacles in life. And let me tell you, friends, that is a skill. You can learn that skill. It takes time, and it is challenging to kind of go deep and figure out each brick of that wall. What are the emotions? What are the memories? What are the personal obstacles holding you back? But once you learn that skill, it can unlock all sorts of change in your life. One of the things I've really learned through the process of going through this for myself and working with others is sometimes we think change is so far off, it's so difficult. I'll never be that person, that we think the scales are so weighted against us, but they're not. So much of the change we want, the scales are really even. It's like 49-51. And once you start learning to kind of release the weight on the scales on one side, you'll start seeing the shift, you'll start seeing the change, and change will start coming more rapidly in your life. You'll start hitting those goals more often, and you'll be completely surprised that you are able to be a person of great change. All right, I just realized I wasn't sharing my screen through all that. I apologize. I had all these great looking slides. I'm the one looking at them, not you. Let's take a moment to ask those questions. Can I get those 5 things in writing? Yes. I'm not going to give the whole slide deck because I found that that's just can be cumbersome, and I don't want to give you, 40 pages of small information. I'll tell you what I do is after this webinar, I'm going to put these into a one sheet, like a cheat sheet for you, and we'll send those out with the recording link here so you can have those in writing because I want to give you the tools for success. So absolutely. Any parts of what I'm saying really confusing, or you'd like me to speak about more? I've got a few more things to go on with, but I don't want to keep just throwing information if you're getting lost out there. What else can I help you with today? While I'm waiting on that, I'm reading some more of these goals here. Fully commit to my doctoral work this year. Woohoo! That's one of my goals. Lord willing, we'll be finishing my doctoral program at United this coming fall. So I am with you on that, Julie. Intentional goal around word, prayer, Sabbath. I love having goal words, by the way. I come up with 3 words every quarter that are my focused goal words. So I love that. Sabbath time, relationships, change. Fantastic.
So, John, you've mentioned several times that learning to remove obstacles is a skill we can learn. What is that skill? What do we need to learn? What is that skill?
Oh, sure. Let me share the next few slides on what it looks like brick by brick on removing skill on that, to utilize that skill. And then if you don't feel like I've answered that, then come back and we'll keep talking. Okay. So thank you for asking that. Let me share my slides. All right. See, I did have these great slides right here. Oh, well, before we go into those last bits of emotional intelligence, let's just go through that worksheet if we can do that. So we have this goal setting worksheet, and this is the process. This sheet is the skill process, Sue. So hopefully you have this. Again, hopefully you've printed that out. Hopefully you have it and that you're writing and filling it out. So step number 1, write down your goal. So let's work with the top half of this sheet first. So step number 1 is writing down your goal. And you see on the left side of the sheet there, I put SMART goals. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the acronym SMART, SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. So when you write down that goal, for instance, don't make it like, I want to be healthier this year. Okay, now let's get it specific, measurable. Say, I want to go to the gym twice a week this year. That's much more specific, much more measurable. So write down a SMART goal. And then the next thing is to drill down to the emotion. Okay, we've got to notice our emotions around the goal. So this is a practice called the 5 whys, and it's really popular. It's got its own Wikipedia page. If you want to read about the 5 whys, you can Google that. But the question is, why do you want to achieve this goal? Okay, So let's say it is to get healthier or to go to, and then you make it specific, go to the gym twice a week. Well, why? Um, because I want to lead a healthier lifestyle. Well, why? So that I'm more able to do physical activities with my family. Well, why? Because spending time with my family is really important to me. Well, why? Because I want to develop great connections. I want us to have a strong, connected family. So do you see that process of the 5 whys? It could also be maybe I want to start my own business. Why? Well, I'm sick of my job. Why? I spend too much time in email and meetings. Why? Because my manager micromanages me too much. Well, why does that bother you? Because I value personal freedom and autonomy. Why are those important? Well, my parents started their own business and I saw their freedom and autonomy, and I want to follow in their footsteps. So do you see how we're drilling down with those whys? And that gets us to the root. It usually takes about 5 whys. You may drill down to the root in 3, but we've got to be honest with what that very bottom why is. What is the core value there? And then the next question, I don't see this in any of these other worksheets. And so this is the value added to this worksheet. What is the emotion of surrounding that goal, that last why, that last value? What are your emotions? Well, with family, it's maybe it's redemptive for you. You say, I didn't have a strong family growing up, and I want to provide that for my family. Or maybe that freedom and autonomy is the value is, I want to be able to create and do something special in the world. And that's a value that I feel like I'm a contributor. So what are the emotions surrounding that goal? And then it's that brick by brick by brick, step by step, that 1% change times 300 to the 365th power. What is one regular small action you can take towards success every day? Maybe you want to write a book, well, every day or 3 times a week or whatever. Can you write, 200 words in a Google Doc or something like that? Or that small regular action, I'm going to go to the gym just for 20 minutes to start with, or go walking for 20 minutes. The other value added on this worksheet that I don't see in any other of these kinds of worksheets is the second half of the worksheet, is getting to know the obstacle. What is the greatest obstacle to your goal? And then do the same thing. Why does this problem happen? What are the 5 whys behind that problem? How can we drill down into that problem? Okay, what's the greatest obstacle? Let's say it's the reading. I want to read more books this year. What's the greatest obstacle? I can't find time. Well, why does that happen? Well, it's because I haven't really set aside time. Why? Because my schedule is kind of helter-skelter, and I say I'm going to read it at night, but things crowded out. Well, why? Well, because I haven't really planned my week. Well, why is that? Because I haven't locked down and stuff, and I don't feel like I have control of my time. So we start drilling down. The obstacle to reading may not be, I don't have books or I don't know what to read. The obstacle may be, I need to be better managing my time. Then what are the emotions surrounding that obstacle? Well, maybe I don't want to be locked into a schedule. Maybe I'm afraid of losing my freedom. Maybe I fear that, it'll take time away from my family, other things I value. Again, getting to those fears or the sadness or maybe anger or something surrounding that obstacle. And then what small regular action can you take to remove that obstacle? What can you do? What would be the smallest thing to do if you set aside a time? Maybe you want to read before you go to bed or something, and say 10 o'clock at night or whatever, I don't know, 9. The smallest thing you can do is set an alarm on your phone. Okay, that's going to go off and I'm going to try to read. And maybe you'll be successful, maybe you won't. That's okay. You've taken a small action step toward that goal. And then after a week of the alarm going off, maybe say, I'm just going to stop what I'm doing and read for 5 minutes. Maybe put the book on your phone so you can just open it up and read right then. What are those small steps of progress? So this is the progress of knowing how to break down the goal and get to the value on the other side of the wall, but also the process of encountering that wall or that obstacle and really dealing with that. Is that, how does that process sound? Does that make sense? And I'm listening. You can unmute if you want, or you can put it in the chat. I'm watching both here. Oh, I see somebody brought up Atomic Habits. Fantastic. Absolutely. Read that book. You'll learn about habit stacking. You'll learn about morning routines. You're going to learn about a lot of stuff that I would love to throw into this seminar, but man, we're getting close to running out of time. So I've probably given you enough for 1 hour. But, and by the way, I want us to go over a few more things. And I'm going to stay on this call. We'll quit recording at 2 o'clock, but I'm going to stay on the call 15, 20 minutes, whatever. If people have more questions, if you want to wait till some people clear out and ask your question, that's fine. So we can do some Q&A. If somebody wants to stay on and kind of go through this worksheet, I would love to do that with you. Good practical, again, real life practical help is what gets us through. So looking at the time, I'm going to keep going, and then just know that we'll be able to open that time up at the end for some more interaction. Because I do want to give you a few more tips towards success. I did promise 500%, and 500% is a lot. So I want to be able to give you every tool that I can to help you get there and be successful. So change with emotion on your side. I hope that one overarching principle you're getting from this whole thing is that you've got to have your emotions on your side for change instead of working against your emotions. No matter how much determination and grit and all that you have, you will not be able to work against your emotions successfully long term. So how to change with emotion on your side. A few of these are things that you find on productivity and the internet and stuff, but I think they're really worth mentioning because number one, find a friend. You can get your emotions on your side when you share them with somebody else. Not just share your goal with somebody else, but find somebody you can trust that you can also share the obstacles with that person. Share your fears, share your doubts, share some of that insecurity. Again, somebody you trust, because they will speak to you like a friend and they will help you get over those emotions of the obstacle. So go with somebody else on this journey. If somebody else can help you remove those bricks from the wall and you partner together in that, wow, you're going to go so much faster and stronger. Two, you've heard me say this, keep it small, one brick at a time. This is not about trying to smash the wall. It's about trying to understand the wall and dismantle it piece by piece by piece. It's a long and slow process, but once you do it once, it's a skill. You'll get better and better at it. Reinforce the value and celebrate the wins. That's why I wanted you to have that goal sheet so you can get to those emotions and get to those core values. Keep those in mind, celebrate those, and celebrate the wins. If you find out one of the values you're doing this for is to celebrate with your family and just, have more time with them, then plan that right in and say, "I'll celebrate with me, family." You're going to reinforce those values. There should always be time for celebration, kindness, and compassion in this work. Number 4, and this is what I was talking about, is knowing and respecting that obstacle, because that obstacle is a part of who you are. Even if it's something terrible that happened to you in your past, I encourage you to not only get to know it, but have compassion for yourself in that area. Don't hate the obstacle and say, "Man, I'm just going to tear this out of my life and I'm never going to speak about it again and it's never going to influence me again." Just denying it, hating it, all of that stuff doesn't dismantle it. Respect that obstacle. It's a part of who you are. Have compassion for it as you take it down in your life. You'll find that you'll get to your goal in a healthy way. The last thing I want you to do is get to your goal through anger and frustration and this kind of spirit of vengeance. "Man, I'm going to make it happen this year, whether it destroys my family or not, or my health or anything." No, 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 no. We want to do this in healthy and compassionate, even if that means slow moving ways. Number 5, the key skill to unlock change. Are you getting this here? That the key skill is noticing. Noticing. Can you just notice what's going on when you encounter that obstacle? I'm going to give you one more, and I'm going to share a silly story with you. Because we want you to notice, because failure does not lead to quitting. When you're looking at this and you're working with those obstacles, failure doesn't lead to quitting. It leads to learning. Every time you fail, it can lead to learning. Can I share a kind of a silly story about this? Is a couple of years ago, I had to set a goal to, well, first I had couched to 5K, then I had couched to 10K. And during COVID, I was able to run my first half marathon. I've got marathon on my goal list. Maybe next year, we'll see. But I keep pushing myself to run more and more. And there was this one time that I was in a noticing mood, I guess. And I sat down, I got dressed for my run. I sat down to put on my shoes, and I just stared at my running shoes. And there was this big feeling within me to, don't put those on, skip it. You're too tired. You're never going to complete the program today. It'll just be a failure. Just do it tomorrow. You'll be fine tomorrow. You'll feel better, maybe get better sleep, whatever. And I stared at those shoes and I noticed those feelings. And like I said, this is kind of a silly story. I got to admit to you, I think I stared at my shoes for 5 minutes. But you know what I was doing? I was just noticing. I was watching these messages in my brain. I was watching those obstacles present themselves and those emotions. And you know what? I ended up not going running that day, but I didn't count it as a failure because I felt like I learned so much more. I went up to that wall and I put my hands on it and I felt the contours of it. And I felt the deep parts of myself that worked against me in those goals. I learned so much that day about who I am and about the obstacles of my life. And that enabled me to continue to remove bricks. So don't look, noticing is such a huge skill. And even if you fail, if you take a moment to notice that failure and you learn from it, that is great to success. Failure doesn't lead to quitting. It leads to learning. All right. 2 more things, and then we're going to open up some Q&A because I did make some promises here. First of all, let me share with you that we have upcoming let me give you a few quotes. I love these quotes. From psychologist Dr. Lynn Bufka, she was sharing about happiness. How do we become happy in life? And as a psychologist, she says, it's not the extent of change that matters, but rather the act of recognizing that lifestyle change is important and working toward it one step at a time. I want you to become great at these things and I want you to achieve every goal. But you know what I first want is I want you just to feel like you're making steps because it will increase your happiness in all of this work. There's a principle out there called the progress principle. And I'll include this on my 1-page cheat sheet so you don't need to be scribbling fast. But of all the things that can boost emotions, motivations, and perception during a workday, the single most important is making progress in meaningful work. And some of you said that you want to pray more this coming year. Wow, I hope that is just set alarm, do that 2 or 3 minutes a day, start those habits, because even at just 2 or 3 minutes a day, you are progressing toward deeply meaningful, eternal work. And that's going to elevate you. The psychology behind it says that it will boost your emotions, motivations, and your perceptions. You'll start becoming not just a person of prayer, but a person that's known as a person of prayer. And that's going to be a beautiful thing. Let me give you the next quote. It's the shortest one, but it has stuck with me. I heard this years ago, and I was unsure of it when I first heard it, but now I believe it. Old Tony Robbins, motivational speaker, he says, progress equals happiness. Isn't that the truth? It's not like we have to achieve every single goal in 2023 that we set, But even if we get partway there, even if we're taking steps, it makes us happy. It boosts us. It does something to us to be able to take those steps. And you know what? Can I say? I believe it's working with God. You know, Philippians 1:6, he who began a good work in you will what? Complete it until the day of Christ Jesus. God is working in you and growing you. What more does bring us happiness than knowing that we're partnering with God in so many of these goals? It's a beautiful thing. So yeah, my time is almost up. Let me say again, two more things. We'll get out of here. Next up, through the Innovation Center, I'm going to be offering a leadership lab, because learning emotional intelligence right in the wild in real time through a unique opportunity where the community becomes the curriculum is going to be a beautiful thing. We're going to limit this experience to 10 participants. It's going to run for 6 weeks, February 2nd through March 9th. That's on Thursdays afternoons. You're going to get a follow-up on this and a way to sign up. And basically, it's going to be me and 10 other people. And you'll be filling out these goals or whatever for work, for ministry, for yourself. And we're going to be walking through this. It's going to be a highly interactive experience. And that way we'll be learning it in real time. It's the best way to learn emotional intelligence. I'm so excited about offering this because I think it will propel people who want to move and get better in the area of emotional intelligence. It will propel you so much. I put on the side there, as Sue said earlier, WeDoEQ.com. That's going to be my landing spot. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get my website launched this week, so it is a work in progress. If you go there right now, it's the under construction thing, but you're going to see more through that, and put some offerings on there like these productivity sheets and things. 2 reasons I love Goal Crazy Planner more than anything else. 3 reasons. 1, it starts off with 60 pages of goal setting and how to think about goal setting, or 40 pages. You can fill that out, helps you walk through goals. 2, it's the only planner I found that has a spiritual component to it. My friend Jason is a devout Catholic, great brother. He's got a spiritual column. A lot of these planners don't have anything spiritual in them, so I'm glad he has that in there. And number 3, I love it because it's got so many emotionally intelligent practices every day. You start a practice of gratitude. You start self-messaging. You start talking about your best self and anticipation. Those things are all great practices. Let me pray and say, Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for so many people that want to see more and more of you and your plan unfold in their lives in 2023. Lord, we know throughout Scripture, you are a God who brings dreams and hopes. And Lord, I just pray that these goals resonate with your heart. If there's anything more that you want to add to our lives this year, bring it to our minds. Help us to deal with everything that we face, the obstacles, the ups and downs of 2023 with you. We thank you for it. We thank you for working with us. We thank you for everything that you've done to bring us to this point today. And we ask all of this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Again, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you, Sue. Thank you to the Brusso Innovation Center at United. This has been great. I hope you got my email there in the chat. If there's any other way that I can help you, I want to see you be successful this year. So thank you and God bless.